Hello, this is a follow-up video which I promised to my original video. You can see the link down below that talks about using audio notifications in Gmail with a certain trigger, which happens to be a label in Gmail, to be able to be notified of some important event. As we get emails, we could have regular notifications, we can even have it chirp a little bit, which becomes totally annoying and irritating and doesn't really accomplish ability to notify us of important things. Most of the things we get in Gmail are not that important. Certainly don't require notifications. So before I set up a process, again, the video is down below, where I talked about setting up an extension, Chrome extension, that helps to play an audio file based on email coming in with a certain label. Then I was going to expand it to have a different message for a different label, and usual deal, you have all kinds of aspirations, but you never get them done. So then I thought, well, what I could do is use something like TTS, which is text to speech. And I figured if I put in some kind of a special subject line in an email, perhaps I could have the browser use this built-in TTS capability to say whatever is in the subject line. And I tried that, and that worked actually pretty well, reasonably well anyway. It certainly did the job properly. The problem was that I didn't like the voice and I didn't like the monotone sound of it, basically. So I thought, what if I could use ElevenLabs, because they have much better voices. And the first part is to create the extension, play the audio based on that particular notification. Here I'm not going to go through the details of setting up the extension, which took a few hours working with Claude, and became a frustrating process, to be honest. But I'm going to talk about the automation part of it, which is essential part to making this whole thing work. So if you get the extension going, once you work with either Claude or ChatGPT, whatever you want to do to set up the extension to play audio, then next step would be to automate the whole process. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. In terms of the extension itself, obviously you need to have that. I'll be more than happy to provide the files for you if you request them using DM, and explain them to you. We can jump into a call using Icon, obviously, of all applications to do video calls, and I can explain exactly what I have and how it works. But I don't want to go into details here because it would take too long. I'm just going to say it's definitely not for the meek at heart. It's definitely not simple to just set up this extension from scratch, even working with AI. It's doable. Obviously, I got it done, but it's not something that's just a 5-minute process and it's working and everything is great. I went through a bunch of iterations, didn't work, that didn't work, this didn't work. I mean, there was just definitely like I said, probably altogether maybe 2-3 hours it took to get it all working. But the automation part is right here. So I'm using this app called Relay.app, which I referred to earlier for doing workflow automation. Exceptional app. I mean, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And let's just look at this particular piece. You can see they're not difficult or complicated in terms of setup, these automations, but they do allow you to do a lot of stuff in a very methodical manner, and you can get a lot of stuff done with these automations. So basically, even though I'm not doing a tutorial on Relay here, I'll explain everything that it's doing step by step. So overall automation looks like this. As you can see, there's only 4 steps. It's pretty simple. So the first thing is there's this trigger that indicates when this automation should run. And there's different ways to start it. In my case, I want to run it daily at 9 a.m., which is when I need to put dispatch on. That's when I need notification. So this trigger is set up saying run this entire thing at 9 a.m., step 1. And you can see the steps right here. Step 2, if I click on this thing, it's basically what I'm doing is I'm prompting AI. In this case, it happens to be GPT 4.1 mini, because it's fairly inexpensive in terms of AI tokens. And I'm saying, right, Oleg, it's time to put the patch on, which is kind of like a basic thing, but in some creative and funny manner, in the style of Bill Burr. You know, Bill Burr does a lot of funny stuff, so I thought I'd use his method to remind me to put the patch on and take it off. And it says keep it in 1 sentence, but it could be up to 30 words long. So you want to keep it kind of short, because obviously the longer the response, the more tokens it's going to use, the more expensive it's going to be. So I'm trying to keep it kind of fairly short. And then it says generate new one every time this workflow runs. So obviously it's going to create a new one every time. And it could say other things as well, but the point should be about putting the patch on. So I'm basically giving it this prompt to indicate precisely what I want this particular AI call to do, and then it's going to come back, it's going to create this response, and the output of this response, I just want plain text. I don't need anything structured, any kind of formatting or anything, just a regular plain text, nothing special. So that's going to be the next step. Okay, it's going to create this comment. Next step over here is, I call it TTS. You can actually rename these things to be whatever you want, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do text to speech, TTS, and I'm using ElevenLabs integration here with Relay.app to say that use ElevenLabs, and I'm feeding it AI output from Bill Burr comment above as the information it needs to use to create speech from what that comment was. So in other words, when you do the TTS thing here, it's asking you what text do you want to synthesize, and you can put any text you want and it's going to generate speech out of just plain text. I told it to use Sarah, which now that I listen to it I don't like so much, so we can change it to be something else. Let's try Laura and see how Laura works out. Okay, so you can actually select any of those voices, and I'm feeding it AI output from step number 2, which was the step which created the comment, as the input for text to synthesize. So I'm not telling you what text to use. I'm saying grab the text, whatever was generated in this step 2, and then that's the text I want you to synthesize into speech using this particular voice. So that's the next step. The next thing I'm telling you to do right here is number 4, step number 4, which is send mail to me. And so over here, when you create that kind of step, it says send from, which is me, to would be also me, and the subject here, even though I didn't have to do this, it's totally optional, I just put in the actual output from step 2, same one we used to create the TTS. I put the actual text itself from step number 2, so it shows it as a subject line, just for fun. It's not really, like I said, it's not mandatory. So the key element here is the audio part, which is attached, the actual MP3. What happens is when we do step 3, which is TTS, it actually creates an MP3 file, and then that MP3 file is attached here from step 3. It's attaching the audio file to this email message, and it puts this special label here called Gmail Audio Notifier ElevenLabs, which is just something I created because I wanted to be different from everything else, and at the same time something I can use. And that's basically what makes the whole thing work, is the combination of having the special label that tells the extension that it should be paying attention to this particular email. It doesn't look at every email, just emails that have this particular label. And then it's got the attachment as an MP3 file, so that tells it that that's the attachment you're supposed to play if it's an email with this particular label. So that's this part here. And then it just sends it. And when it sends it, then the extension kicks in, and it sounds something like this.
Dragging your feet like a toddler at bedtime and slap that damn patch on before your skin starts auditioning for a crime scene.
Sorry about the playback in stereo here. You see me on the left and the right. I'm still getting used to the new recorder in the script. And anyway, long story short, I'm in stereo this time around. But in the future, you're not going to see me in stereo. We'll just do the usual deal. Anyway, over here we have this screen from my friend who sold me these patches, and feel free to reach out to him at orangecowboy.com, and he can get you set up with information on what these patches are for and how to use them, how not to use them. I'm going to leave the information down below on how to contact him in the link. But basically, this was the reason I actually set up this whole process I'm talking about today, is because I'm using these patches. I wanted to have a potent notification system where I could get notified audibly when it's time to do these patches, because obviously there are other ways to do it, but I thought it would be kind of cool as a project, and also a fairly easy way to set up these notifications. And of course I could use them for other things as well. That's why I wanted them to be dynamic, and I wanted to be able to have them be flexible enough so I can indicate my own messages. So for example, once I got this patch on notification done, then I set up a similar by just duplicating the automation for patch off, and it's the same exact label, same concept, but the message is different. So I just simply tweaked the AI part a little bit. So it talks about taking the stuff off, and it's working just fine. So now I have one for putting them on, another for taking them off, and then I could set up other things at other times where it would notify me of some other events that are of importance. So I think it's kind of a cool notification system. And like I said, setting up the extension itself was a little bit of a chore, but once you're done with it, you're done with it. And everything else seems to work automatically, and Relay.app is essential in making the whole thing work, as you see. If you have any questions, please leave them down below, or comments. And certainly feel free to subscribe and like and share like everybody else says. If you like the video and you like the concept, if you do not, then skip the like and subscribe part and just share it. That's all. Thank you. Until next time, I'm Oleg.